If you've ever woken up with a dry mouth, felt a little lightheaded when you stood up, and told yourself, "I'll grab some water later," I want you to pause with me for a minute. Men over 60 often chalk these little signals up to age, but they're actually your body's quiet alarm bells. And the place that pays the price first isn't your biceps or your back, it's your circulation, and that means your penis. Today's conversation is tender, frank, and practical because your confidence, your intimacy, and your everyday well-being matter. We're talking about, and I'm going to guide you through what to do in a way that feels doable, dignified, and effective. I'm Dr. Nolan Easton, and for more than 30 years in men's health, I've seen a simple truth repeat itself. Erections are a circulation story long before they're a bedroom story. Blood has to arrive quickly, stay long enough, and leave at the right time. Dehydration quietly sabotages every step. When your body's low on fluid, your brain protects the essentials, like your heart and lungs, by narrowing blood vessels in less critical regions. That includes the vessels serving the penis. It's not a moral failing. It's not you losing your touch. It's physics and plumbing. And the good news is that plumbing can be fixed with smarter drinking habits that respect an older man's unique needs. A few months ago, a patient I'll call the retired teacher came to see me. 69, kind eyes, still walking the neighborhood each morning. He said he felt fine, just tired by afternoon, a little foggy, and increasingly discouraged about his erections. He'd tried to ignore it, tried to blame stress, even tried a supplement he saw online. As we talked, something small slipped out. On most days, he had a cup of coffee at breakfast, a mug of tea mid-afternoon, and maybe a glass of water with dinner if he remembered. He wasn't avoiding water, he just didn't feel thirsty. That right there is the trap. After 60, the thirst signal gets quieter, but your body's need doesn't. I asked about his mornings. He often woke up with mild cramps in his calves, a bit of dizziness when he stood, and urine the color of strong tea. Those are classic flags. When you're dry, your blood gets a little thicker and harder to move, your blood pressure may wobble, and your body releases stress hormones that make blood vessels clamp down. Less flow, less firmness, less staying power. He looked at me and said, "Doc, are you telling me this is just water?" Not just water, but mostly water, and a way of drinking that works with an older bladder, older kidneys, and the realities of sleep. Here's where I want to give you a simple promise. If you learn to drink on schedule instead of waiting for thirst, if you aim for light yellow urine most of the day, and if you balance fluids with a little salt and potassium at the right times, you can feel clearer in your head, steadier on your feet, and see a real difference in your erections. I've watched it happen over and over. The retired teacher didn't need a miracle, he needed a pattern. We started by front-loading his day, more earlier, less later, so he wasn't up all night. That alone eased his fatigue and made morning intimacy feel more possible again. Let's talk about how dehydration sneaks in. Coffee and tea can fit just fine in a healthy day, but they're not a hydration plan. Add in a water pill for blood pressure, a warm climate, a long walk, and a couple of hours pass with no water, and you're behind without noticing. Your body compensates by pulling fluid from tissues and concentrating your urine. If you were to peek inside your blood vessels, you'd see thicker blood moving through narrower pipes. The penis, which depends on a sudden, generous flood of blood, ends up getting a trickle. There's nothing shameful about this. It's mechanical, and mechanics can be tuned. So, what does drink like this actually look like for a man over 60? Start within 15 minutes of waking with a tall glass, slow, steady sips, not a chug. That early glass reinflates your circulation after a dry night, wakes up your kidneys, and sets the tone for the day. Pair it with a light pinch of mineral salt on your breakfast eggs, or a few bites of a potassium-rich food, half a banana, some yogurt, or a small bowl of berries, so the water you drink stays in your bloodstream instead of running straight through you. Then aim for a small glass mid-morning, another with lunch, and one mid-afternoon. That pattern keeps you in the sweet spot. Hydrated enough for circulation, not so much that you live in the bathroom. You might be wondering about evenings. Many men tell me they avoid drinking after dinner because they're afraid of nighttime trips. That's sensible. What works beautifully is a measured approach. A few gentle sips in the evening to avoid going to bed dry, then stop about 2 hours before sleep. If you enjoy a warm beverage after dinner, consider a small decaf herbal tea and a few sips of water beside it, rather than a full mug. This rhythm respects your sleep while protecting your circulation for the next day's performance, on your morning walk, and yes, in the bedroom. I also want to address a common mistake: chasing dehydration with pure water alone after heavy sweating. If you've been in the garden or on a brisk walk and your shirt is damp, plain water may not be enough to restore balance. You lose sodium and a bit of potassium with sweat. Without replacing a little salt, water can slide through you. That doesn't mean sports drinks full of sugar. A glass of water with a small pinch of salt and a squeeze of citrus, or water enjoyed alongside a light snack like a handful of nuts or a cup of broth, is often the smarter move. It's simple, tastes good, and it works. While we're here together, I'd love your help. If this message is resonating so far, if you've noticed the dry mornings, the foggy afternoons, or the slow decline in firmness, tap like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss practical guidance that respects your age and your goals. Drop a quick yes or no in the comments to tell me whether you suspect dehydration is part of your story. I read those answers. They shape how I tailor what I teach, and they help other men your age feel less alone. Back to the retired teacher. We kept things gentle. No big rules, no giant jugs to carry around. He placed a glass by his toothbrush at night so it greeted him in the morning. He set a tiny reminder on his phone at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Not a nag, just a nudge. He enjoyed his morning coffee, but followed it with water. At lunch, he added a bowl of vegetable soup or a small salad with cucumber and tomatoes, foods that carry water into the body quietly. By evening, he was sipping less and sleeping better. 2 weeks later, he told me his energy wasn't dipping in the afternoon, the muscle cramps had eased, and he felt more confident initiating intimacy with his wife. His body hadn't changed overnight. His blood flow had been given a chance.
The first mornings he tried the new pattern, he was surprised by how ordinary it felt. No big performance, no special bottles, just a glass waiting by the sink and the decision to finish it in unhurried sips while the kettle warmed. He told me it felt like his body inflated a little, the way a plant perks up after watering. That small sensation matters because your blood volume is what carries oxygen and nutrients to every corner of you. When you start the day already behind, your body compensates by tightening the pipes. When you begin the day topped up, the system relaxes, and what needs to respond, your brain, your muscles, and yes, your penis, can respond. That's the quiet power of simple consistency, and it's where so many men your age can win without strain. I suggested he treat the day like a gentle arc, a full glass shortly after waking, then a half glass mid-morning, a glass with lunch, another half glass mid-afternoon, and then just sips in the evening. He liked the idea of bookends, a firm start, a soft landing. The goal is comfort, not constantly running to the bathroom. When you space it out, the bladder stays calmer. Little and often is friendlier to an older prostate than a last-minute flood of water at 9 p.m. And since older thirst is a poor guide, a routine is kinder than guesswork. He set the easiest cues he could imagine: water beside the toothbrush, a small glass near his favorite chair, and a refill when he took his afternoon walk. He asked what counted as good fluids, and I kept it simple. Plain water is perfect. If you like a little flavor, drop a slice of lemon or cucumber in the glass, or mix a small splash of juice with water for taste without a sugar bomb. Broth at lunch is a smart choice because it carries a little salt to help hold the water where you need it. Milk with breakfast can contribute too. Decaf herbal tea is fine, especially earlier in the evening. Coffee? Enjoy it if you like it, just respect the balance. For most men, a cup or two of coffee still counts toward daily fluid, but because it nudges you to pee a bit more, it's wise to follow your morning mug with water rather than assuming coffee alone did the job. Alcohol is trickier. It dries you out and irritates the bladder, so if you have a drink with dinner, pair it with water, and finish the water first. That single habit helps men sleep better and wake up less parched. He also wanted to know whether he needed one of those electrolyte powders. Not necessarily. If you're eating regular meals, a pinch of salt on your eggs, a bowl of soup, some vegetables and fruit for potassium, and a handful of nuts will usually cover what you need. If you've been sweating in the garden or the weather is hot, a glass of water with a tiny pinch of salt and a squeeze of citrus can be just as effective as a fancy packet. The key is avoiding the two extremes: pure water in huge gulps after heavy sweating, which can rush through you, and sugary sports drinks that push blood sugar around and leave you thirstier later. Gentle, steady, and with a little flavor or salt around mealtimes works beautifully. We talked about bathroom trips because that's the fear that keeps many men from drinking enough. An older bladder can get twitchy if it's hit with a big volume all at once. Sipping spreads the load. Finishing most of your water by mid-afternoon calms the evening. A short walk after dinner helps the bladder settle, and keeping your legs elevated for a bit before bed can reduce the fluid that otherwise shifts from your ankles back into circulation at night, something that often leads to a 2 a.m. bathroom visit. These are small adjustments with outsized comfort. I gave him an easy, private way to check whether he was on track. Pay attention to urine color. Aim for light straw yellow most of the day. Darker, you're behind. Clear every time, you might be overshooting and washing out minerals, especially if you feel a bit wobbly or get headaches. Your body is intelligent. Color is a simple signal you can use without charts, rules, or gadgets. Another sign is how you feel when you stand up. If the room dims or you feel unsteady, it's a nudge to review your routine, especially your morning glass and your midday drink with lunch. In the background of all this is a word that matters to erections: flexibility. The inside lining of your blood vessels needs to relax quickly to let blood surge into the erectile tissue. When you're well hydrated, that lining behaves better. The pressure that builds in the penis is a pulse of confidence as much as physiology, because when your body responds, your mind stops bracing for disappointment. He told me that after a week, he noticed more morning firmness, his phrase, and he smiled when he said it. Not every day, not a miracle, but enough that he felt the tide turning. That matters. Confidence is a partner in performance. There are a few cautions I share with every man because I care about safety. If you've been told to limit fluids for heart or kidney conditions, follow that guidance and have a quick conversation with your clinician about what a balanced day looks like for you. The principles don't change: steady, earlier, and not excessive, but the amounts might. If you take a water pill in the morning, keep your glass nearby for the hours after you swallow it. And if you ever notice swelling in your ankles that worsens, sudden shortness of breath, or a pounding heartbeat after drinking, those are reasons to check in promptly. Respect for your body and your history is part of wise self-care at any age. He also asked about the afternoons when he always felt drained. We added a small water-rich snack at 2 o'clock, something like an apple, a few slices of watermelon in season, or a bowl of yogurt with berries, and a half glass of water. He noticed that his energy dips softened and that he was less tempted to reach for a second cup of tea. His evening felt more open, and paradoxically, he wasn't as thirsty at dinner because he hadn't starved himself of fluids all day. The bladder liked this too. A calm evening made for steadier sleep, and he woke up less groggy. That brighter morning headspace carried into his sense of closeness with his wife, where the worry had once set the tone. He came back to see me a month later, not with fireworks, but with the kind of quiet changes that mean the body is cooperating again. His mornings felt steadier, he wasn't swaying when he stood up from bed, the afternoon fog had thinned, and the calf cramps that used to wake him were rare. What caught his attention most were the mornings when he woke with a sense of fullness and readiness he hadn't felt in a while. He said it almost shyly, the way many men do when talking about erections, but there was a softness in his shoulders that told me a weight had lifted. That's what I want for you. When we say video topic, we're really talking about restoring conditions that let your circulation act like a friend again, calm, responsive, and generous where it counts. There are details that make this easier, especially for a man over 60.
Temperature is one of them. Many older bodies accept warm water more graciously than icy gulps. He started keeping a small thermos with warm water at his chair in the morning and found he sipped without thinking. It went down more gently, and the bladder seemed to tolerate it better. Another detail is timing around meals. Water with food is a practical pairing because the small amount of salt and potassium you naturally eat helps hold fluid in your bloodstream where it supports pressure and flow. He began enjoying a cup of broth with lunch on cooler days and a plate of water-rich vegetables, tomatoes, cucumbers, leafy greens on warmer ones. He didn't count ounces. He paid attention to comfort, urine color, steadiness, and the way his body and mood felt by late afternoon. He asked whether he needed to chase a number. 8 glasses, 2 liters, a gallon. I told him numbers can motivate, but your body's signals are kinder guides. After 60, the thirst alarm gets unreliable. That's why a simple plan beats waiting to feel parched. Begin the day topped up. Put gentle sips where you already have routines. After a walk, with medicine, when you sit down to read. Aim for that light straw color in your urine most of the day. If you step on the scale in the morning and notice you're down a pound after an especially sweaty day in the garden, that's your body telling you to replace fluids thoughtfully with water and a little salt at the next meal. Numbers can be invitations, not judges. On days he worked harder in the yard, he noticed plain water sometimes ran through him. That's when we used a simple trick. He paired his glass with a handful of lightly salted nuts or a small slice of whole grain toast with peanut butter. The tiny bit of sodium and the minerals in the food helped the water stay put. He didn't need bright-colored sports drinks. He didn't need a special powder. He needed a nudge to treat his body as if it were still making good decisions, which it was. After those afternoons, the evening felt calmer, and intimacy didn't feel like something he had to gear up for. It felt available again. Travel days are their own puzzle, and he and his wife had a short trip to visit their granddaughter. Airplanes and long car rides dry you out quickly, and many men respond by not drinking to avoid the bathroom. He flipped the script. He drank a full glass before leaving home, brought a small bottle for measured sips, and chose an aisle seat so he didn't feel trapped. In the airport, he skipped the second coffee and asked for water with a squeeze of lemon instead. He walked the length of the terminal between flights, which helped fluid move out of his legs so it wouldn't surge back into circulation at bedtime. That night, he slept better than usual on a trip, and the next morning he felt fresh rather than cotton-mouthed and stiff. He told me later that the confidence carried into how he approached the day, including being affectionate without the old hesitancy. There's another timing point that matters: moments of closeness themselves. A large glass right before intimacy can make your bladder twitchy and distract you. A better rhythm is to arrive at the evening already hydrated from the day, have only gentle sips with dinner, and give your body 2 hours to settle before bed. That way, the blood flow needed for firmness is there when you want it, and you're not paying for it with extra bathroom trips overnight. He and his wife found that mornings, after his first glass and a bit of breakfast, were often their best window. Warm light, calm nerves, and a body that had what it needed, it felt natural again. Medications weave into this picture, and you deserve a clear, calm approach. If you take a diuretic in the morning, make that first glass non-negotiable, and keep another nearby for the next few hours as your body releases fluid. If you use a medicine that can lower blood pressure or make you lightheaded when you stand, steady hydration cushions those swings. If you use a medicine to support erections, remember that these medicines rely on healthy blood flow. Arriving hydrated helps them perform as intended. None of this requires complex rules. It asks for respect of your prescriptions, your routine, and the way your body responds. We talked about the fear of too much water, and I reassured him that excess usually doesn't come from thoughtful sipping. It shows up when men chug large volumes quickly. The body doesn't like a flood. If you're drinking so much that your urine is crystal clear every time and you feel a little weak or headachy, ease back and add a bit of salt and potassium at your next meal. Balance is the goal. Enough to support circulation, not so much that you feel sloshy or restless. Water is a tool, not a test. He wanted food ideas that didn't feel like homework. We kept it familiar. Oatmeal cooked with milk in the morning holds water kindly, and he topped it with berries.
At lunch, a small bowl of soup gave him both warmth and hydration. In the afternoon, he sliced an orange or snacked on yogurt. With dinner, he let vegetables do some of the lifting. On hot days, he occasionally blended a simple smoothie: water, a bit of yogurt, a handful of fruit, and sipped it slowly. What mattered wasn't perfection. It was a thread of kindness running through his day, so his body never had to beg for fluid. By the time the retired teacher and I sat together for his follow-up, what struck me wasn't just the physical change, but the gentleness in the way he carried himself. He described mornings that began without the sandpaper mouth and the wobble when he stood up. He felt clearer in conversation, steadier on the stairs, and when closeness found its moment, he didn't brace for disappointment. That quiet confidence is what happens when you give your body what it's been missing. I reminded him, and I'll remind you, that video topic isn't a scare tactic. It's a simple truth about circulation and comfort. When you drink like this, earlier, steadier, with respect for your age and routine, you're saying yes to how your body still wants to work. He told me a small story I loved. He and his wife went for their evening walk, an old habit that had faded as he felt more tired. The air was warm, the light was soft, and he noticed he wasn't dragging one leg, stopping to rub a calf, or planning the fastest route home. Later, when they sat together, he realized he wasn't calculating or monitoring his body the way he used to. He was present. That presence is at the heart of what we're seeking. Hydration can seem ordinary, almost boring, but the freedom it gives you to focus on your life instead of your symptoms feels anything but. As we reviewed his day, we kept the tone human. He didn't count ounces, he counted moments. A glass at waking, sips through the morning, water with lunch and a little snack in the afternoon, a calm evening with just enough to avoid going to bed dry. He noticed that this rhythm didn't just help erections, it softened his whole day. Digestion was easier, his mood felt brighter, and he found himself starting conversations more readily because he wasn't fighting that low background fatigue. Bodies love predictability, and older bodies especially appreciate kindness that arrives on a schedule. I want to say this as clearly and kindly as I can. You are not past your prime for feeling good in your skin. You're in a season that rewards wisdom over willpower. The wisdom here is recognizing that thirst goes quiet with age, that heavy evening drinking irritates the bladder, and that tiny additions of salt and potassium around meals help water stay where it supports you. The retired teacher made those shifts, and what returned wasn't youth, it was ease. Ease is what opens the door to the firmness and staying power you've been missing, because circulation is no longer being asked to do more with less. We also talked about the days that don't go to plan. There will be mornings when you forget the glass, stretches of heat when you sweat more than usual, or a long car ride when you're tempted to avoid fluids entirely. Those are not failures. They're invitations to gently correct course. If you miss the morning, take your time catching up with a glass and a simple snack. If you've been sweating, add a pinch of salt and a squeeze of lemon to your water or pair it with a bowl of soup. If you travel, place a small bottle within reach, take measured sips, stretch your legs when you can, and end the day with just enough water to feel comfortable, then stop 2 hours before bed. The goal isn't perfection, it's a pattern that carries you. He asked me how he would know this was working long term. I told him he'd feel it before he could measure it. Lighter steps, fewer cramps, urine a soft straw yellow more often than not, a steadier head when he stood up, and in private, an easier readiness that didn't feel fragile. Over time, these become the new normal. That's the transformation I've witnessed for decades, as Dr. Nolan Easton, sitting with men who thought the best years were out of reach and discovering they were simply dehydrated and discouraged. Give your body this steady kindness, and it will surprise you with how much life it still holds. If this message feels like it's for you, I'd be honored if you'd like this video, subscribe, and tap the bell so I can keep bringing you practical, senior-friendly guidance that respects your time and your experience. Leave me a quick yes or no in the comments to tell me whether you'll try the morning glass and the gentle day arc we've discussed. I read every one. Your answers help me tune what I share, and they remind other men that they're not alone in wanting comfort, confidence, and connection at this stage of life.